had 2 doses.
What
Randomized,
the fuck?
which means they get a dose of a saline shot, and then randomize the other group to get the booster. Moving forward, with the fast groups that are randomized, what the outcomes are with downside of risk and benefit of infection dropping and severe disease dropping. That's how you do that. That's what we ought to be doing. Crazy to me that
Are you fucking serious? What the fuck?
to an American FDA committee
Oh my fucking god.
to be doing this research ourselves. Where is our tax money going for this? Right? It's crazy. So anyways, the FDA said, look, we just don't know the risk of this. And Paul Office said, I don't know about, young 16-year-olds with this. It just, for a booster, it just doesn't necessarily make sense. So those are the bigger arguments. And then you have this question of, well, then what ought we be doing with this effort of getting people vaccinated with the original series in the first place? And as I've said, I think mandates are likely to some extent to help because people will get vaccinated, but to a bigger extent, they're going to backfire because, first of all, there's a relatively small proportion of the population that you're going to affect with your mandates that are within the purview of the mandates, right? And I'll tell you, judging by the emails I'm getting, you're turning off people left and right who are ready to get vaccinated, right? All they needed is someone to sit and talk with them, answer their legitimate questions about whether it's natural immunity, whether it's about waiting for Novavax, which I don't think we should do, whether it's about safety, which I talked about. That's what they need. Let's get people vaccinated. We know that helps. What will a booster do to the long-term shape of the pandemic now? Probably not much. Focus your effort and your attention on what actually is going to work. The goal is to turn this thing endemic, like a cold. So how are you going to do that? Get as many people immune as you can, as quickly as you can. Well, natural infection is doing that with Delta, and vaccination will do that. Now, what about people who are really high risk? By the way, let's say you are talking about a booster. What about the timing on that? Like, you get a boost. Okay, here's another thing about the Israeli data. Well, we boosted a bunch of people, and look, they're, they have these high antibody levels, and they're unlikely to, 20-fold less likely to get infected, and 10-fold less likely, 11-fold less likely to be hospitalized, according to some Israeli data. Yeah, over what period of time? Right after the vaccine, maybe that's true, when you're swimming in antibodies. But what happens weeks to months later? So let's say you start boosting everybody now, and then you have a late winter surge, or no surge, or something that happens in the spring. Well, it may be too late then. So even the timing of when to give a booster, because you don't understand the dynamics of it, we haven't done the trials, that matters, right? Now, let's circle back to 65 and older, and then we'll talk about people at high risk, etc. Okay, so 65 and older, here's my intuition on this, looking at the data. I do think that that's a population that gets immune aging, meaning they are the ones who are most likely to have waning immunity against even severe disease. They're the highest risk for severe disease. I don't think it's wrong to say a booster is reasonable for them, right? Obviously, yeah, you don't mandate it, but you say, okay, you guys want that? That's cool, right? My parents got Moderna. I got Moderna. We didn't choose it. It was just what was available now. I don't know that you need to boost that just yet, right? Because we don't have the data. Moderna's working on the data. Of course, it's in their interest to say, yeah, we need a booster. Duh, they're pharma. As my friend Vinay Prasad said on the show, a tiger is a tiger. They're going to do what they do. Even if they think it's in our best interest, it may not be, right? So you always have to question that data. But that being said, I think 65 and older, yeah, okay, it makes sense to say what they said, which is, okay, we can probably recommend it, right? Now, what about healthcare workers and frontline workers that are at high risk for infection? This is where it gets kind of squishy, because the person who works in the mailroom at the hospital, I don't even know if they have a mailroom anymore, the email room, the IT guy, right, as Vinay said on one of his episodes, are they at the same risk as like a frontline respiratory therapist? And would you say that they should go ahead and get a booster now when there's no good data? And what if they're young, they're like 28, they're at higher risk for myocarditis. We don't have safety data. Now, here's the worst part of it. You know full well if when the CDC advisory committee and CDC determines, okay, who are these groups and what are we going to recommend? If they recommend healthcare workers get a booster, pretty soon hospitals or government are going to mandate boosters. Okay, if that happens, you're going to see me scream and yell on the show. Literally scream and yell. You've already mandated it for healthcare workers, which is already level of wherewithal to look at primary data and all that, a lot of healthcare workers. So why are we treating them like anything other than the big information they are by forcing them, right? It's like holding a child down and forcing castor oil back in the old days down their throat, because it's good for you. If you mandate boosters in that population, and it turns out that they have some effects like worsening myocarditis or something, you are going to destroy the credibility of your institution if you haven't done it already, right? So that's what I think about that. I think you better have better data. You better be very, very soft on recommendations for frontline workers, right? And people at other high risk, what does that even mean? CDC's got to tease out what they mean by that. Does that mean high risk? Pre-hypertension high risk? Like, what does that mean? And again, are you going to mandate boosters for people? Because to me, that sounds like crazy talk. In the absence of a randomized control trial that shows that this is essential to developing immunity against severe disease. And I'm not holding my breath to see that trial, even though that's what we ought to be doing. Speaking of losing trust in our institutions, Dr. Monica Gandhi and I, Dr. Vinay Prasad and I have both talked about the pros and cons of boosters, masking young children, things like that in terms of absence of data. Okay, I put out these clips on everyone's favorite platform, TikTok. So my kids shamed me into joining TikTok. I said, Dad, everybody's on TikTok. People are on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram. Old, I guess, is defined as anyone over 5. So TikTok, I finally bit the bullet. We put some clips on there. TikTok banned my Monica Gandhi clip on boosters for healthy people with faith. That's what the FDA said. Before the FDA said it is what we said. And the second clip was Vinay Prasad and I talking about the data on masking, the paradox of how we treat masking young kids. We'll let them eat lunch next to each other and share food, but then we'll make them run outside with a mask on. We'll make them do that during PE. And they're like huffing and puffing in an infinite volume of distribution where there's no data that helps them. So those were the 2 videos I put out, both pulled for violation of community guidelines on misinformation by TikTok. Okay? So now the Chinese Communist Party that basically owns TikTok, I don't know if that's true, I heard it somewhere. Some are probably unreputable. Misinformation. When a UCSF doctor, myself, 2 UCSF doctors are talking about, is this how we do science now and science communication? Is this how people are going to trust? This is why people message me. They're like, well, I don't trust anybody but you. I'm like, first of all, that's terrifying because I'm just a bald clown on the internet. Second of all, it goes right to the heart of how what a terrible job. All right, that's the FDA and boosters. The call to action now is if you haven't been vaccinated and you haven't been infected with COVID. Get vaccinated, please. If you've been vaccinated with 2 doses and you're fully vaccinated and you're high risk.
Semtex armed.
All mission objectives have been met. Signing off.
Hudson, this is Weaver. All objectives agreed. They're dead.
Team deathmatch. Eliminate all threats. We're pulled ahead.
Proximity mine deployed.